Everyone loves hearing scary stories, but there are some you shouldn't look up if you want to sleep at night. Creepy Wikipedia pages you should not visit. Carl Tanzler. Carl Tanzler was a radiology technician in the 1930s when he fell in love with one of his patients, the beautiful Elena Milagro de Hoyos. Unfortunately for Tanzler, his love was doomed. Hoyos had contracted tuberculosis and didn't live to see the other side of her illness. That didn't stop Tanzler's feelings, however. They only grew as he continued to obsess over her. In 1933, 2 years after she'd been buried, Tanzler stole Hoyos from her tomb and kept her in his house for 7 years. Among many other unsavory deeds you can probably guess at, Tanzler took every effort to preserve Hoyos' beauty, including using wax, plaster, and glass eyes. After his crime was discovered and Hoyos' body was returned to the cemetery, Tanzler remained just as obsessed with her as he'd ever been. He spent the rest of his life worshipping a life-sized effigy of her he'd recreated. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of all our upcoming videos. Slender Man. One submission to an online forum for photoshopping supernatural photos in 2009 took the internet by storm. The tall, besuited figure with spidery tentacles had a terrifying and unstoppable penchant of taking children like a monstrous Pied Piper. Slender Man quickly became an internet urban legend as more and more people added to his mythos. His influence took a turn for the worse as he became a real-life horror story. In 2014, two 12-year-old girls tried sacrificing their friend in Slender Man's honor, believing that they would become proxies to the eldritch monster if they succeeded. If they failed, they and their families would be forfeit to him. It was only luck that their victim survived. Sailors see human foot discoveries. Shoes have been known to wash ashore now and then, but strange things are afoot along the Salish Sea in British Columbia and Washington. They're not always empty. 21 sneakers with unattached human feet inside them have appeared since 2007, with many identified as belonging to missing people. Many of these feet's owners are thought to have been victims of accidents, natural disasters, or depression. In some cases, with nothing else of them found, there are only theories as to what could have happened. Spontaneous human combustion. Fire needs 3 things to survive: fuel, oxygen, and heat, which usually means a lot of wood or gasoline is involved. However, in certain cases, humans have been found to suddenly catch fire from the inside out, where none of these fire elements are available. While some cases could have been caused by external fire sources, such as embers or ash catching on clothing, many can't be explained away so simply. These victims of spontaneous combustion go to sleep one night only to wake up unable to move as they burn, if they wake up at all. Strangely, in many cases, their legs are the only survivors. In these cases, the rooms around them are often untouched by the flames as well, with perhaps only the chair they're sitting in catching. Donner Party. In 1846, a group of American travelers now known as the Donner Party was traveling across the Oregon Trail when they came across a new road to the golden fields of California. This new pass wasn't meant for wagons, let alone a train of them, and the party became trapped in the Sierra Nevadas during the winter. Food quickly grew scarce and the party began to turn against itself. Members fell ill or to their neighbors' hands. For many, it was a dog-eat-dog world. The survivors made do with any supplies they had at their disposal, whatever or whoever that may have been. The pioneers were trapped for 4 months before help could arrive in February 1846. By then, only 48 of the original 87 party members had survived. Their journey is considered one of the greatest tragedies in California's history. Edward Mordache. According to legend, Edward Mordache was a Victorian version of Professor Quirrell from Harry Potter, complete with a second face living on the back of his head. This face didn't eat or drink, but it seemed to revel in the young man's suffering. It sneered when he was happy and took pleasure when he wasn't, and it went out of its way to make sure that he wasn't. It would whisper things that the young man thought could only have come from the lowest circles of hell. Every Dr. Mordache begged to remove his unwanted guest refused, and the suffering became too much for him to bear. The face was posthumously destroyed on Mordache's request out of fear that his demon twin would continue to haunt the living world. The Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter. In August 1955, 4 families staying in a small Kentucky farmhouse found themselves under the gaze of mysterious creatures, possibly from another world. A dozen small beings with yellow glowing eyes and claws emerged from the woods and tried to enter the home from the windows and doorways. But those inside fought back. They held off the goblin-like beings for 4 hours, unafraid to shoot their shot against the invaders, before finally making their escape to the police. All 4 families left the farmhouse the next day, claiming the aliens had returned in the middle of the night for another round. To this day, ufologists consider this the most well-documented alien encounter in modern history. The disappearance of Frederick Valentik. On October 21, 1978, trainee pilot Frederick Valentik was flying over the Bass Strait in Melbourne, Australia, when he noticed an unknown craft following him at 4,500 feet. Air traffic control told him that there were no other crafts in the area, but Valentik insisted that he could see the 4 landing lights of a much larger craft now 1,000 feet above him. The next time he called, the mysterious craft was orbiting around him like it was playing a game, and his own plane's engine began to malfunction. Valentik's last known words were, "It's not an aircraft," before his transmission suddenly cut and contact was lost. He was never seen or heard from again. List of people who disappeared mysteriously. If you thought that Valentik's disappearance was disturbing, then don't check out the Wikipedia pages for a list of people who disappeared mysteriously pre- and post-1970. They're just what they say on the tin. From children and kidnapping victims to freedom fighters and vanished princes, these wikis prove that no one is safe from possibly being the next name added to the list. Although the listed disappearances don't give all the gritty details, it's eerie to read about person after person whose whereabouts and fates are unknown. It's like looking into a cemetery where all of the graves are empty, or at least you think they are. Mercy Brown Vampire Incident. While people talk about Vlad the Impaler being Bram Stoker's inspiration for Dracula, not many know about another real-life vampire that came to his attention. Tuberculosis continuously struck the Brown family of Exeter, Rhode Island in the 1880s and 90s. By 1892, 4 of the Browns had contracted the illness, 3 of whom fell to their consumption. The one surviving member, Edwin, was only hanging on by a thread. The Exeter community became convinced that one of the recently departed was a vampire cursing their loved ones beyond the grave. The supposed culprit was Edwin's sister Mercy Brown, who had developed TB around the same time he had, but succumbed to it much faster. The only way to break Mercy's sinister hold on Edwin was to give him a tonic using ingredients taken when Mercy was exhumed from her grave. It didn't work, but a vampire panic spread throughout New England all the same. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. In early February 1959, 9 hikers trekking through the Ural Mountains in Russia were supposed to telegram their friends when they arrived at their final destination, only the telegram never came. Authorities found the hikers' tent on February 26th, torn open from the inside and abandoned as if the group had fled in the middle of the night. 5 of the hikers were found in the surrounding woods, having long succumbed to hypothermia. 2 of them were clad in nothing but their underwear. The remaining 4 hikers were found 2 months later, buried in the snow by a creek only 75 meters away from their friends. Their bones were fractured as if they'd been hit with the force of a car crash, and some of them were missing their eyes and tongues. One of the hikers' clothes was highly radioactive. Authorities ultimately ruled the incident was caused by compelling natural forces, but many are convinced that whatever or whoever attacked them was much more vicious than bad weather. Are there any scary Wikipedia pages you read and instantly regretted? I certainly regretted every one listed in this video. Let me know in the comments below. 1. Who put Bella in the witch elm? On April 18, 1943, 4 boys were wandering the nearby wood in Hagley, England, when one of them climbed a witch elm. From up in the branches, he saw the skull of a woman in the tree's hollow. When police investigated, not just her head, but her whole body, apart from her hand found nearby, had been trapped inside the elm for 18 months. No one knew the woman's identity, but the next year, the words, "Who put Bella down the witch elm, Hagley Wood," were found graffitied in the nearby town. The writer was never found, nor the reason they waited so long to say anything. As the first to give her a name, they'd obviously known the victim, but whether they were a friend or the perpetrator is unclear. Who put Bella in the Witch Elm continues to periodically appear in Hagley, but to this day, the answer is still a mystery.